So while the Trump regime is in this catastrophic war against Iran, it should be noted that the Trump regime is blocking what it calls controversial topics from being taught at West Point and other military academies. This was challenged by faculty members at the military academies who said, seriously, you don't think that our cadets, our graduates, the people attending military academies, people who are going into military, can process controversial topics, and the regime's going to dictate what students who are at our top military academies can actually learn? And so a Republican judge, Judge Kathy Seibel from the Southern District of New York, said the following in an order blocking the Trump policy that bans controversial topics from military learning establishments. This is where they go. This is what the judge writes. West Point cadets are not snowflakes who will somehow be harmed by learning about controversial issues. As Josh Gerstein explains, federal judge has blocked the Trump regime policy limiting public speech and perhaps on-campus speech by West Point faculty. So this case was brought by a guy named Tim Bacon against the United States Military Academy against West Point. Here's how it was described. Plaintiff Tim Bacon, a civilian professor at the United States Military Academy, and several others in his department, alleged the unconstitutional infringement of their First Amendment rights of freedom of speech in order to teach their own students at a military academy diverse viewpoints. And why, with all of these wars that Donald Trump launched, you would think that understanding perspectives of other countries may actually be a way to stop unlawful and catastrophic wars in the first place. I don't know. Perhaps if you were able to learn more about historical traditions, about Iranian civilization, and maybe if stuff like that is Hegseth going to say that's controversial or that's being banned, or what we can't learn about lessons that have been learned on the African continent. We can't learn about lessons that have been learned in Eastern Europe if the regime says you can't learn about it. This is what the court said. The court draws the following facts here from the amended complaint, and it goes on to talk about how West Point is a 4-year federally established undergraduate institution where its students are prepared to become cadets, officers of the United States Army. West Point's mission is to build, educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets to be commissioned leaders of character, committed to the Army values, and ready for a lifetime of service to the Army. Although military instruction and training are part of West Point's curriculum, the Academy also offers courses in more traditional college subject matters like sciences and humanities in order to develop cadets' critical thinking and creative problem-solving skills. And so the plaintiff was working at the military academy since June 2000 as a civilian professor. No issues, taught courses, spoke at external audiences about constitutional, criminal, and corporate issues. In 2020, he published a book entitled The Cost of Loyalty, Dishonesty, Hubris, and Failure in the United States Military. Given that the plaintiff has been employed at the West Point for over 25 years, plaintiff's institutional affiliation gives him credibility in commenting on these issues. And if he were not permitted to refer to his West Point affiliation in external communications, he would have no way to explain what he has been doing for the last 25 years. And so it goes on and talks about this executive order that Donald Trump issued. And here's what the executive order prohibits. The academy and or other military academic institutions from, quote, promoting, advancing, or otherwise inculcating un-American, divisive, discriminatory, radical, extremist, and, quote, irrational theories as determined by the Trump regime. And the professor said, what? So I can't teach about military failures and how we improve? Am I going to be sued? Am I going to be criminally arrested? And I think very interestingly, this federal judge makes a ruling and says, well, by the way, while you have this, horrific unlawful war in Iran taking place, Just stop it. Stop. You're the Republican judge says to the Trump regime, you're the snowflakes. West Point cadets are not snowflakes. They can process difficult information. You're snowflakes for trying to control what they can learn. What are you doing here? And then block the Trump regime's policy. I want to bring in Harry Litman from the Talking Feds YouTube channel, Substack, and podcast. Now, Harry, I know there's so many cases going on that this is one of them that probably doesn't get nearly enough attention, but it just goes to show you how in everything the Trump regime wants their tentacles on, including what members of the military academy who get the top marks, it's very difficult to get into, and says, we're going to tell you what you can learn, and we're going to define what woke learning is, and you're banned from learning about these ideas. To which a Republican federal judge says, what? They ain't snowflakes, they're cadets. You're being snowflakes. What do you make of it, Harry?
So look, it is absolutely canonical, Ben, that you can't say what is orthodox in politics or anything else. That's many of the most luminous and luminary Supreme Court opinions, and you have to have a great reason in order to do it. That's what strict scrutiny is basically about, and no other way to do it. What's the great reason here? We have, as you say, an academy that is properly esteemed because it gives an overall excellent education in addition to preparing people to serve in the military. There's a reason they have civilian professors like the plaintiff here, in addition to military professors. You really want your military leaders to have a broad education, but it's really worse than that because you read part of it. But first, so you have there for any First Amendment lawyer or Judge Siebel, there's so many red flags there. But let's just start with pointing, advancing, otherwise inculcating un-American, divisive, discriminatory, radical, extremist, and irrational theories. What the hell does that mean? Who defines it? That is itself already leading with their chin, because it's an open invitation for ideological people to determine, again, that I'm back at the Supreme Court opinion in the Barnett case, what is orthodox, and even worse. So they dictate that certain things must be taught and certain things can't be taught, and the things that what can't be taught, you may not teach that America's founding documents are racist or sexist. How are you supposed to go through the Constitution, explain the embarrassment that led to the Civil War, etc., that black slaves at the time are counted at 3/5 and not given full citizenship? Is that not racist? Are you somehow supposed to button your lips and not say it? It's a fact. It's a fact about the Constitution that you can't forego if you're teaching. And from there, it gets worse because they are required. So it's one thing to say you can't teach these things. It's even worse from a First Amendment point of view to require them to teach that America and its founding documents remain the most powerful force for good in human history. That's like Stalinist kind of stuff. You must actually stand up in front of the class and are required to say this as if, you're a dummy and Donald Trump is the ventriloquist. So these kinds of hallmarks, imagine going to a regular school and having a long list of things you can say and can't say. And again, by civilian professors who are teaching you the facts. I'm sorry, but I teach constitutional law. I revere the Constitution. I know you do as well, but there's no getting around. And I wouldn't want to make my students not know the fact that it started out in racist fashion and was able to come through. And much worse is literally an index card. Here is, if you teach at the academy, what you must say. Again, it's the Barnett case that struck down the notion that you have to say the Pledge of Allegiance, and the court's opinion ringingly said, in a way we still learn today, nothing is more basic and axiomatic about the First Amendment than the government can't dictate what is orthodox in politics. And that kind of statement is the reddest of red flags. So, and then you go to, I just want to point out how really down the middle violative it is. And what's your reason? What's your reason that you cannot give these snowflakes, as you aptly put it, actual facts and teach them real history and let them discuss things? Donald Trump says so. That doesn't cut it under the First Amendment. In fact, it makes it worse that it's the government who wants to prescribe what's good and true.
Yeah, I could always do that. Could you imagine if Biden or Obama, I mean, but it's so farcical and would in and of itself be an impeachable offense. I mean, imagine Biden or Obama went in there and said, military academy, I am hereby dictating the Obama curriculum, and you cannot learn about this and that. I guarantee you that alone, Harry, would occupy 2 weeks, front page of New York Times, Washington Post. Don't get me started with Wall Street Journal, state regime media, Fox. And so why I think it's important to highlight a story like this while America's in all of these wars and also covering up the actual true nature of a lot of these wars is here's a story that will probably get not told in a lot of other places. Hat tip to Gerstein and Kyle Cheney, people like that who cover it. But we got to bring this to our audience because this is a major scandal. It's yet another example of this treading on you. Remember the don't tread on me crowd? Right. Don't tread on me. They're just the treaders. They're the ultimate treaders on you. Harry, anything you want to say before we go?
Just, think about it like this would be the kind of thing, if you didn't say it was U.S. and military academy, that it would sound like Russia in 1930 or China in 1955. Here is what you must say, comrade, to anyone you teach, true or not. Besides that it's completely abominable under the First Amendment, it's stupid as hell. You want academy students to think for themselves, be the best and brightest. They can certainly entertain the notion that the Constitution at its founding was racist. What does that possibly do to harm military readiness? You want thoughtful, critical people who know the world, and they don't want that. And then in addition, of course, it's violating. It's the third rail of the First Amendment in 2 or 3 different ways.
Make sure you all subscribe to Harry Litman's YouTube channel. It's called Talking Feds. Search Talking Feds on YouTube. See Harry's daily takes there. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you, Ben.
And subscribe here as well.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.